3 days after my best friend's wedding, I woke up to a message I never thought I'd receive. It wasn't from him. It was from his stepmom. The message was only 7 words. We should talk about what almost happened. My heart dropped. What almost happened? I hadn't done anything wrong. Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. But as I stared at those words, memories from the wedding weekend came rushing back. Her nervous smile, the strange conversation we had behind the reception hall, and the secret she begged me not to tell anyone. I had no idea that replying to that message would uncover a family secret that had been buried for over 20 years, and change all of our lives forever. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more emotional stories inspired by real-life moments. Now, let's get into today's story. My name is Ethan, and this happened just 3 days after my best friend Jake married the love of his life. Jake and I had been friends since elementary school. We survived awkward teenage years together, college stress, heartbreaks, and our first jobs. We were the kind of friends who didn't need to talk every day to know we'd always have each other's backs. When Jake asked me to be his best man, I didn't hesitate for a second. The wedding was beautiful. Everyone looked happy. His father smiled more than I'd ever seen. And then there was Linda, Jake's stepmom. She had married Jake's dad when Jake was 14. Their relationship had always been respectful, but never especially close. Linda was kind, quiet, and always seemed like she was trying not to take up too much space. During the rehearsal dinner, I noticed she looked distracted. Several times she started saying something to me before changing her mind. I assumed it was wedding stress. At the reception, while everyone was dancing, I stepped outside for some fresh air. A few moments later, Linda walked out too. "You mind if I join you?" she asked. Of course not. For nearly a minute we stood there in silence. Finally she spoke. "Ethan, you're a good friend to Jake." "I try to be." She nodded slowly. "I've been carrying something for a very long time." Before I could ask what she meant, someone opened the door and called us back inside for family photos. Linda forced a smile. "Never mind." That was the end of it. Or so I thought. 3 days later my phone buzzed. "Linda, we should talk about what almost happened." I stared at the screen. "Almost happened?" I replied. "Is everything okay?" She answered, almost instantly. "Can we meet? Please don't tell Jake." That last sentence made my stomach tighten. Keeping secrets from my best friend didn't feel right, but something told me this wasn't about betrayal. It was about pain. The next afternoon we met at a small coffee shop across town. Linda looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. She wrapped both hands around her coffee without taking a sip. "I owe you an explanation," she said quietly. I simply listened. She took a deep breath. "I almost told you something at the wedding. Because I couldn't carry it anymore." "What is it?" She looked toward the window. "When Jake was 15, he stopped speaking to me. I remember. He thought I broke apart his family." I nodded. "Truth is, I tried to save it. That surprised me." She explained that years before marrying Jake's father, she'd discovered Jake's biological mother had been secretly planning to leave the family. She had even encouraged counseling and begged both parents to fight for their marriage. But by the time Linda entered the picture, the marriage had already ended, emotionally. Jake never knew. To him, Linda became the villain. "I accepted being hated," she whispered, "because telling him the truth would have destroyed the image he had of his mother." I sat speechless. She continued, "At the wedding, watching him thank everyone except me, I almost told him everything." "Why didn't you?" She smiled sadly. "Because it was his happiest day." For a long moment neither of us spoke. Then she reached into her purse. She handed me an old envelope. Inside were letters, marriage counseling appointments, emails, handwritten notes. Everything proved she had spent years trying to protect Jake's family before she ever became part of it. "I don't want revenge," she said. I just don't want to leave this world one day with him believing I destroyed his childhood. Those words stayed with me. I wrestled with what to do. Jake deserved honesty, but Linda deserved respect. A week later, Jake called me. "You've seemed distracted." I almost lied. Instead, I asked him one question. "If there was something important about your past, would you want to know?" He answered immediately, "Always." So I told Linda what Jake had said. She cried. Then she agreed. No more secrets. The following Sunday, Jake visited his dad's house. I wasn't supposed to be there, but Jake insisted. "If this conversation is happening, I want you here." The atmosphere felt heavy. Linda placed the envelope on the table. She didn't defend herself. She didn't accuse anyone. She simply told the truth. She admitted every mistake she'd made. She apologized for moments she could have handled better. Then she handed Jake the letters. He spent nearly an hour reading. Nobody interrupted him. Finally, he looked at his father. "Is this real?" His father quietly nodded. Every word. Jake covered his face with both hands. For years he believed Linda stole his family. Instead, she tried to save it before it was already too late. He stood up, walked across the room, and hugged her. Not a polite hug, a real one. Both of them cried. His father cried. Honestly, so did I. That hug couldn't erase 15 years of misunderstanding, but it became the first page of a brand new relationship. Months later, Jake invited Linda to lunch, then to football games, then family holidays. For the first time, they started creating memories instead of living inside old assumptions. One evening, Jake called me. "You know what hurts most?" "What?" "How many years I wasted hating someone who was protecting me." I didn't know how to answer. Sometimes life isn't divided into heroes and villains. Sometimes good people make impossible choices. Sometimes silence feels kinder than truth, until it isn't. Last month, Jake and his wife announced they were expecting their first baby. At the family dinner, Linda couldn't stop smiling. Jake raised his glass. "I have something to say." Everyone looked at him. "I spent years calling someone my stepmom." He looked directly at Linda. "But today," he smiled through tears, "I'd like to call you Grandma." Linda broke down crying before anyone else did. That single word healed wounds that had lasted decades. As we all celebrated together, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Linda. It simply read, "Thank you for answering my DM." Sometimes one message changes nothing, and sometimes one message changes an entire family forever. If I had ignored those 7 words, we should talk about what almost happened. A son might never have known the truth. A grandmother might never have heard that beautiful title, and a family might have stayed broken forever. That's why I've learned never to judge someone's heart by the role they seem to play in your story. The person you've blamed for years was quietly protecting you all along.